A certain free agent pitcher has expressed major interest in wanting to play in Boston. But does it fit in with what Boston Red Sox's ownership group wants to do? Find out on Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast. And I'm here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox straight to your favorite podcast feed. So whatever you're listening on right now, thanks for tuning in. The show is always available. Locked On is your team every day. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And we sit here on another day that the Red Sox have likely missed out on yet another free agent. It was reported that Shota Imanaga supposedly reached an agreement with the Cubs. Everything's very surface level right now. He has to go through his physical on Thursday before the deal becomes official. But we should know very soon that that's finalized, and it's incredibly irritating that here we are once again with the Red Sox being reported as interested in this player, and then it likely doesn't happen. He would have made a lot of sense for Boston. I dove into that on yesterday's show, why he would be a good fit. And it all bears the question, what exactly is the plan in Boston? So I'm going to be trying to dissect a little bit about what that might be on today's show. But first, there is a free agent pitcher who has expressed interest in wanting to play in Boston. He's come out and said that Boston is one of his preferred destinations, and that is Mike Clevinger. Clevinger's 33 years old, entering his 8th MLB season. He's coming off a season in 2023 in which he posted a .377 earned run average through 24 starts with the White Sox. Over 152 career games, with 138 of them being starts between the White Sox, Padres, and Guardians. He's amassed a .345 earned run average overall. Last offseason, he was under investigation by MLB following allegations of domestic violence, and MLB ultimately announced in March that as a result of the investigation, he would not face any discipline under the league's policy. So all of this is being brought up because if he's saying he wants to play in Boston, the Red Sox need to be very wary of what they're getting into here. Would it be a logical fit? Sure. And he would be a cheap, shorter term deal because he's on the higher end age-wise, and he's getting to the point where he knows he probably isn't going to get this massive deal. So it really would be a 1 or 2 year deal, most likely, wherever he ends up, which is something that the Red Sox seem to be wanting to do. They seem to not want to really commit to guys longer term. We saw them sign Lucas Giolito. That was only a 2 year deal, even with an option after the first year. So the Red Sox aren't seeming like they want to commit to these longer term deals right now. So from that thinking, that's something that I would say fits the Red Sox bill, signing a pitcher who they feel could add to their rotation depth, but isn't somebody who's going to be demanding a long-term contract. On the flip side of that, this almost haunts me to the point where it could be Corey Kluber 2.0. We obviously saw Kluber in his prime, and he was pretty much unhittable. at that time. Very fun to watch and just incredibly dominant on the mound. And then he started to decline. And then when the Red Sox signed him, I just had this feeling that it was not going to go well for Boston and that things were going to go south. And sure enough, he was the opening day starter, pitched very brutally poorly, and then it just never got any better. The Red Sox even tried moving him to the bullpen at one point during the season, and he wasn't any better there. So ultimately, it just did not work out. It was an absolute disaster of a contract, and the Red Sox tried it for a year and it didn't work. I'm not confident that Clevinger would be able to provide the type of value that the Red Sox think that he would. That's not to say that he'll be at the same level as Kluber was, because that's pretty difficult to do. That was pretty horrendous. But I don't see Clevinger as that piece that moves the needle for the Red Sox. This would be another signing to me that would be like, okay, he can add some depth to, the middle of the starting rotation, be like maybe a number 3 or a number 4. But the Red Sox have plenty of guys already like that on the team who can fill those roles in the back end of the rotation. I'm looking for that true number 1. And signing Giolito and Clevinger does not make the Red Sox rotation any more competitive than really where it was at the end of last season, because that still to me doesn't have a number 1 or even really a number 2 on the staff. Now, Giolito has more potential to me of being able to eventually be a 2 if he can work with Andrew Bailey and they can figure out how to get him back to where he was prior to his injury, because if they can do that, he can potential wise be a number 2. Clevenger's had his ups and downs though, and he hasn't been consistent enough over the last few seasons for me to really feel confident in the fact that the Red Sox can sign him and that he could help put this team over the top. If the Red Sox already had an ace on the pitching staff and they were focusing on finding guys to help round out that rotation, then I'd be okay with it, because it's certainly a good depth type of move. But my worry is that they already signed Giolito. If they signed Clevinger, they would feel like they don't need to do anything else to improve the starting rotation, because they brought in 2 guys who are decent arms that can help round out that rotation. And that to me would worry me that they would stop looking for an ace or stop trying for other pitchers. Now, I went into a segment on the show yesterday about Dylan Cease, the pros and cons of the Red Sox trading for him. He's an actual legitimate ace. The Red Sox are in a tough place right now when it comes to acquiring a legitimate number 1 starter, because if they're not willing to spend the money needed for one of those types of arms on the market, then free agents are not going to want to come and pitch in Boston. And when it comes to trading for somebody, they're going to have to dig deep into their top prospects in order to acquire a guy. And I don't think they're in the position right now to be able to do that. Whereas if they were the Dodgers, they would be able to, because the Dodgers have a fantastic deep farm system and also a ton of talent at the major league level. So the Red Sox, format wise, I don't know that they have all the right pieces to pull off a trade for somebody like Dylan Cease, but they can be creative and be willing to make it work. They just need to say, we're going to actually pay a true legitimate number 1 starter. If I'm being honest with you, Clevinger coming to Boston doesn't move the needle for me at all. I don't think he's better than Cutter Crawford. I definitely don't think he's better than Brian Bayo. And he certainly, if he can improve his ability to go deeper into games, I don't think Clevinger is better than Tanner Houck either. So what exactly would Clevinger coming in here do to make the Red Sox a better team? I see truly, if they sign Clevinger, that they're in the same spot as they have been the last couple of years. And I would rather them not pay Clevinger to a 1 or 2 year deal and use money the right way and spend it on a right-handed bat and or an ace caliber starter, because those are the top priorities right now, and Clevinger certainly is not an ace. However, if they were to sign him and then they also brought in a true number one, then that I would be okay with, because he's a proven veteran with experience. It just worries me with his age, but it's totally the type of signing that the Red Sox of the last couple of years would make. So don't keep your expectations very high. Unfortunately, the Red Sox overall this offseason have not given us much hope yet in general, but I don't believe that Clevinger would be a fantastic solution for Boston. Again, if they bring him in, but they also bring in a top guy, that's okay, but that cannot be the only other move they make to the pitching staff this offseason, because that doesn't make the staff any better than it was. Speaking of the Red Sox making moves, winter weekend is coming in about a week and a half, and there was an event that's canceled that has fans pretty rattled on social media, so I'll be going into that next. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk just for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is scary. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than my fiance or one of my other family members got sick while a supply chain issue kept them from the life-saving medication they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. Honestly, it's so worth it if you want to feel like you have that extra security blanket, especially when you're traveling or something like that. So purchase your Jase case today, because it'll just make you feel so much better about traveling and not having to worry about things. You can also download the Sirius XM app, because that'll generate the home broadcast for you of every Red Sox game, so you don't have to worry about missing a single pitch. It's honestly a great thing to have. I know for me personally, I hate missing games, so if you can't sit and watch it live, the Sirius XM app has you covered. So download that today and search Red Sox, and it'll generate the home broadcast of every game straight to your phone. The Red Sox have winter weekend coming up, the weekend of January 20th, and it's always a nice weekend for fans to be able to go interact with and meet former and current Red Sox players, people on the coaching staff, the ownership group, and there's a lot of different activities that take place. It's actually really nice and usually very enjoyable for people. During winter weekend, typically the Red Sox have an event that's basically a town hall event. Essentially what it is, it's a fan interactive town hall meeting with Red Sox leadership on hand to answer questions from fans. So people can sit there and ask questions about the current state of the Boston Red Sox. And it has been announced that the organization has done away with that event. There will be no town hall at winter weekend this year. This has gotten people absolutely rattled and disappointed on Twitter, and they've expressed their frustration about it. This is an event that fans typically enjoy because it's a great way to feel like you're getting more up close and personal with the Red Sox leadership group, to find out more about the current state of the franchise and the direction of where they're going. And it's disappointing that it's not happening this year. And it's a really awful look on Red Sox ownership. John Henry, I'm looking at you, to not show up for this type of event because you don't want to get booed, which you probably would get booed even more than last year, and just have it be amplified. And people would boo, rightfully so, because the Red Sox made false promises going into this offseason that they were going to go full throttle. And what does full throttle even mean to them? Because as far as I'm concerned, I define the offseason that the Dodgers had as full throttle. That is truly going all in and making your team better. And that was a team that was already incredibly strong. The Boston Red Sox have been in last place to the last 2 seasons in a row, and they are not being aggressive when it comes to bringing people in. They have no problem really with shipping people out. I mean, letting go of Chris Sale had to happen. Letting go of Alex Verdugo ultimately made sense as well. And now there's talks about the Red Sox trading Kenley Jansen. So if they're trying to get rid of these players, you have to also go full throttle with bringing guys in. You can't sit there and say, yeah, we're going full throttle. And by full throttle, we're just going to trade everybody on this roster, but then not bring in the talent needed to make the Red Sox a competitive team now. And if I'm John Henry and company, I probably do feel embarrassed and don't want to face people at winter weekend because I don't want to deal with the negative backlash that I'm going to get. And honestly, it's really disheartening to fans who spend a lot of time following this team, dedicate themselves to going to the games, even though the Red Sox continue to raise ticket prices to go to games, and continue to support this team when the organization hasn't really done much to show that they care about the Boston Red Sox and they're making them a priority. There was a clip from last year's winter weekend where Sam Kennedy and John Henry were sitting up on stage and they were asked, I've been seeing things on social media. People are wondering about this. Are the Red Sox still a priority? Just asked point blank, are the Boston Red Sox still a priority? John Henry kind of looked away, didn't really want to answer the question. So Sam Kennedy had to answer the question. And it's just a really awful look all around because I truly am starting to lose faith that John Henry prioritizes the Boston Red Sox over other endeavors that he's pursuing. And the worst thing that you can do is to mislead fans and say, we're going to go full throttle this offseason. We're really serious about improving our roster. And then sitting here and not really improving the roster because the roster as currently stands, not to say this will be it on opening day, but if this was the Red Sox roster on opening day, what it is right now, it's not any better than it was last year. And the Red Sox need to know that they are in a competitive division with other teams that are very good and we're ahead of them last year. So just because the other teams in the division haven't made as many moves, that doesn't mean the Red Sox should be following suit with that because they were the ones in last place. They were the ones that need to be willing and able to adapt and improve. And by canceling the Hall of Fame event at winter weekend, it is truly a bummer for fans who look forward to going. And there's going to be some great appearances there. There's a lot of current Red Sox players attending, like Brian Bayo, Tanner Houck, prospects like Cedar Rafaela, Trevor Story also will be in attendance, as well as legends like David Ortiz and Lou Merloni and Pedro Martinez. It's always a pleasure being in front of people like that. And Alex Cora and some of the other coaches will be there, including Andrew Bailey himself. So all of that is nice. And it's really cool to be able to be around guys that you looked up to and enjoyed watching playing and are some of the biggest reason why you're a Red Sox fan today. But you know what? If ownership isn't going to man up and go to an event that fans get really excited about, where they kind of get into the heads of the ownership group and see where their thinking is, that's only going to push fans even further away from the Boston Red Sox organization because people are going to say, well, John Henry doesn't even really care about facing the fans. So what are we really doing here? I don't know if there's a better word to describe it than disheartening because it really truly is. And I wish that the Red Sox would be more in tune with realizing you need to do more to improve this roster than what you have done so far. And I don't blame fans on Twitter for being upset about the town hall segment being canceled because it's just the opportunity people have to really learn more about the state of the Red Sox. And it's just an awful look on John Henry and company. And that leads me to beg the question, what exactly is the plan for Boston? Coming up, I'm going to be trying to dissect what may be going on here and figure out what we should look ahead to with this franchise. How do you feel about sports betting? Is it something you find yourself really good at? Is it something you want to learn more about? Whatever your skill level is with sports betting, FanDuel has your back. The NFL's regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. FanDuel is fun because it gives you a lot of opportunities to win. And if you're new to sports betting, it's a great way to get involved and start to place some bets. So check out FanDuel today. Also, don't forget to download the SiriusXM app because you can get the home broadcast of every Red Sox game straight to your phone, so you don't have to worry about missing a single pitch. It's honestly a really nice thing to have. Finally, there's some very exciting news with Locked On. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. This is super exciting because no other network has this. It's our opportunity to make sure you're constantly in the loop with everything going on in sports so you don't have to worry about missing anything. So it's constantly live no matter what time zone you're in. So subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube so you don't have to miss it. What's the plan, Boston Red Sox? That's a question that still stands to apply at this point in the offseason. And honestly, I was starting to look forward to a sense of direction from this franchise when they signed Giolito, they traded Chris Sale, and I said, oh, that might be making room for another pitcher to come in that could really enhance this rotation. And so far, that hasn't happened. Between the news over the last day or so of missing out on Imanaga, and then also the Red Sox canceling the town hall portion of winter weekend, it gives you less hope naturally that the Red Sox are going to make more moves. And what worries me is that they don't want to face the fan base because they know how disappointing that is for everybody. If they know, then why are they acting this way? They are not a small market franchise, nor should they be acting like one. And I know they feel like they want to improve in other areas, but there's no excuse to not acquire a true #1 starting pitcher. That just is what it is. And what is exactly the plan? If the plan is to try to develop your own guys internally, that's fine. But you can't come out and say you're going to go full throttle and that you're serious about winning now if that's the case. Because why move on from Chaim Bloom if that was the case? Because that was something Bloom was actually very strong with, was improving that farm system, bringing in young talent that the Red Sox could develop in their own system to eventually come up and be a key piece of the team. And if that's the focus right now, is on continuing to build that farm system and not really focusing as much on the major league team, then there wasn't really a point in firing Bloom. Bringing in Craig Breslow, to me, I thought was going to symbolize a new leaf for Boston. They were trying to make a statement that they want to approach things differently and handle things in a different way than they've handled them the last few seasons. But so far, that hasn't been the case. And if the plan is to win now, they're definitely not at the point where they can win now with the roster they currently have. Is it because they are valuing the current talent on the roster too much? Possibly. Is it because they feel like they are doing enough right now to make that happen? Like, do they feel that Giolito is a better starting pitcher than he is, and he's somebody who can really be that key piece that the rotation needed? I mean, maybe he can be down the road, but there's no guarantee. He hasn't really pitched that way in a while, so I'm not sure what would be giving them the confidence that he can be a true number one starter. Is Brian Bayo a number one starter? Not yet. To me, he's more of like a 3 right now that can maybe be a number 2 by the end of the season, but he's certainly still not a number 1. Or is there really something in the works and the Red Sox are just working quietly? Because so far, based on the reports, there hasn't really been a lot that's come out about the Red Sox before the moves happen. There weren't really reports that they were trading Chris Sale. There weren't really reports that they were signing Giolito until it happened. So these things are happening secretly behind the scenes, but what exactly is the reason for wanting to trade somebody like Kenley Jansen? Is it because you want to get his salary off the books, or is it because you feel like you don't need a closer and you can have other guys who can pitch in that role and you want to use that money elsewhere towards maybe a starting pitcher? That I would understand. But it seems to me like there's no real plan or direction right now. And everybody involved in the Red Sox front office is being secretive about it or not being willing to open up to the public about what they're trying to do. And that's going to lose the interest of some of this fan base. And when I look at the Boston Red Sox right now, I'm seeing a team that won't be higher than last place in the division until they make more solid additions. And that needs to be, for one, a number 1 starting pitcher, and for 2, a solid right-handed bat to balance out the lineup. And what exactly is their plan for that? They haven't been willing to invest in pitching for a while, and it makes me wonder if they still don't plan on doing that. And this whole winter weekend situation goes back again to John Henry not wanting to take accountability for things that have been said versus the actions of what they're doing. And you can argue that, yes, there's still about a month or so left of the offseason before pitchers and catchers report, and then before spring training, which is after that. Yes, there's still time from now and then, but what kinds of moves are they going to make? Are they planning on using this next month to be aggressive? Nobody knows besides the Boston Red Sox, but if they try to go into this upcoming season with the roster looking the way that it is, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people, rightfully so, because you can't make these false promises and say, yeah, we're going to go full throttle, and then not even show face at winter weekend because you don't want to get booed by the fans because you're afraid that you're going to get called out for the lack of moves this offseason and not taking accountability. And it's unfortunate because people are going to try to put it on Breslow, and Breslow is going to look like, the scapegoat. But at the end of the day, this is on ownership who writes the checks. And if they don't want to pay guys, they don't want to pay guys. And that just is what it is. But I don't know that they have the assets to really trade for the type of caliber starting pitcher that they need. So therefore, they need to be willing to break out the checkbook, sign Blake Snell or sign Jordan Montgomery. That would make the rotation better. And that would at least instill some sort of faith in the organization by the fans. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. We'll see what happens at winter weekend, but hopefully the Red Sox give us some things to be excited about before winter weekend happens. Don't forget to download the SiriusXM app and search Red Sox, because you can get the home broadcast of every game straight to your phone, so you don't have to worry about missing a single pitch. It's awesome. It makes you not have to stress about anything, so you don't have to miss a game. So it'll generate that home broadcast for you of every game. And also, while you're at it, subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, because you can access the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's a great way to stay caught up in everything going on in sports without having to sit and scroll through Twitter constantly if you missed something. And it's hosted by all of the talented Locked On hosts. Everybody appears on there to share the biggest stories of the day. So head to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe. As always, keep the faith as much as you can. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.